Hi guys and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to be creating a pad sound with a virtual synthesizer called Halion, which comes free with all versions of Cubase. But before we do that, the guitar recordings are back from the Pro Player and we're going to get these into Cubase in just a second. I'm going to show you how to do that. And by the way, if you're looking to hire a guitar player or a vocalist or whatever, you could try soundbetter.com, which is where I found the guitarist that I used on this track. So I'm just going to mute the acoustic guitar, we don't need that at the moment, and the snare is still quite loud on this drum loop. So like we did before, open up Groove Agent, make sure snare is selected. I'm just going to bring this down to like -3 and -4. Okay, -3.5 sounds about right. Okay, so on with getting the guitars in. If you've recorded your own guitar parts, then obviously you don't need to bring in the guitar that's provided for you. You can just use your own. So you need to go to wherever you have got the work files downloaded. So if you go to the right-hand side on Cubase, just make sure the right zone is open, up here. Then navigate down to File Browser. This will enable you to see files that are on your computer. And then just navigate to wherever it is you downloaded the work files and all the audio that comes within the work files. Then go to the audio folder and you should see all the various bits of audio that you need for this course if you're following along. Your folder might look a bit different to mine, but it's okay. So we want the GTR center, so guitar center. We're literally just going to drag and drop. We're going to put it there. You can see there's a bit of a gap at the start of the guitar. So here's the audio waveform here, and here's a gap of silence. So we could trim this off with our scissor tool. We could come in here and trim that off if we wanted to, or you can move the rest of the project to the right a little bit, or just close the right zone for a second. I'm just going to highlight everything by drawing a box around it, and with grid on and adapter zoom should be fine. As long as the snap is on, the grid is on, we can now move these audio segments over and the drums as well. And we want to put it here on bar 3. So now, if I just move across the looped section by waiting for the hand, come up to where the hand is and just carry that over, this should start at the right time. We may need to turn down the guitar volume. I just might as well do that now. Turn it down there. You can turn down volume here by clicking and dragging down. It's less fiddly than trying to click this left and right. There's also a fader down here. Just click on fader. You've got a bigger fader button here. And obviously with the mixer window open in the lower zone, you could do it here as well. It's the same fader here as it is over here and over here. You can see that moving down there. So let's just see if this starts at the right time. So let's bring that down a bit more. Yeah, that's perfect. So let's get the other guitar parts in. Like I said, we asked for 3 different takes, so we can pan a couple of them left and right later on in the tutorial. So open the right zone again. You want guitar left and then guitar right. Just put them there, so that's the same gap, so that's handy. And then guitar right. And later on we'll be coming in here and sort of panning these left and panning them right. But for the moment I'm just going to mute them, keep things simple. Just stick with one guitar track for the moment whilst we're getting all the various elements to the song in. And then we'll mix it all later on. So let's just zoom out with G and move the loop over. So it's a 4-bar loop now, and let's just have a listen to this guitar. So that's basically how it's going to go for the verse. Zoom back out with H. And don't worry, there's lessons coming up later on where we sort through all the takes and how to comp it all together and how to process it all. But let's continue with building our track. Let's get in a virtual synthesizer. So I'm going to close the lower zone, the middle button up here, and we're going to right click and add an instrument track. So same type of track as when we use the Groove Agent. It's a virtual instrument. So you want an instrument track. This time I want to change Groove Agent to Halion. So that should be under Synth, under your Synth section. If it's closed, just open it up. And we want Halion Sonic SE. I'm actually using the full version because the SE on my computer doesn't load anymore, but don't worry, you just load Halion Sonic SE, it'll be absolutely fine. And let's call this Pad. So we type in Pad and we click Add Track. And Cubase fires up a track here called Pad. Now I want to move this out of the way. At the moment it's in the middle of the guitars, so I'm just going to get to an empty space, click and drag down, and bring the track down. It's also fired up the Halion Virtual Synth. So this is what a virtual synth looks like. When you first bring it up, nothing's going to play. This is the virtual keyboard, which I'm using my mouse to trigger, but there's no sounds loaded, so that's why we're not hearing anything. We're going to use this synth today in a very, very basic way, but it does do a hell of a lot more than this. And just a quick reminder, we do have a course on this telling you how to use this in full. Okay, so this is a virtual instrument, and it comes with all kinds of different sounds that have been sampled from various instruments, such as pianos, organs, keyboards, guitars, bass, brass. You can see all the different types of sounds we've got here. So this is where you filter what type of sound you want, and then in the bottom window here, you can actually go through and load up preset after preset and find a sound that you want. And then these knobs down here just change the sound slightly, so you can make it mix with your song a bit better. So we want to go down to Synth Pad, so click Synth Pad, and it's now opened up some subcategories. You could filter the results more by digital, analog, whatever, but I'm just going to look for one called Dreamy Spheres. I originally used Super Rich Pad, but I realised that was not in the SE version, so I'm going to use Dreamy Spheres, and you can either scroll up for it like this, or you can simply type in the name here. So I've typed in Dreamy, and here is Dreamy Spheres. So you should have the same preset in your SE version of Sonic. And like I say, I used a slightly different sound, but really they're almost identical, so nothing to worry about there. So double click to load the sound. And up here you can see we've loaded the sound. And now we can play it with our mouse. Or we can start playing this with our MIDI keyboard. If you have a MIDI keyboard plugged in via USB, you can now play this. We have some controls here to change the sound if we want to slightly, but we're not going to get into this right now, perhaps a bit later on. And don't forget that course I mentioned where we tell you exactly how to use this huge beast of a synth. I mean, just loading up a preset is really just scratching the surface. This synth really does do a lot more than this. Hi guys, so this is just a quick note for you Cubase 13 users out there. The interface for Halion Sonic is slightly different, but otherwise it all works the same. So let me just quickly show you the differences. You can drop a program here or a layer here, click it once to view all the sounds within that particular bank. Go back by just clicking up here. But if you want a particular preset, like in this case, so just type in Dreamy Spheres, and it's telling you what bank that's in. So it's in these two banks, so just go to all, and you can either double click that there or drag it into there, it's up to you. So to go back, just undo the search term and click this icon here, and you go back to all your banks here, so all your instruments are here. So again, for example, if you just want to go to the piano, the verve, all your sounds are here. So that's just a slight variation from Cubase 13 to Cubase 12. Other than that, it works the same. But I'm now going to show you a feature in Cubase called Chord Pads, which means that you can play in chords with the touch of one finger. If you're a keyboard player and you're a good piano player or whatever, you don't need to do this. You can just maybe skip on. But this is for people that don't know how to play chords, don't know how to play keyboard, and are not too sure about music theory as well. So let's have a go at that. So we need to open up the lower zone, up the top right corner, and change the bottom window to where it says Chord Pads. So we just need to trigger our instrument now, either with our keyboard or using these chord pads perhaps down here. So all the chords are laid out for you here, and we can change the key and the type of chord very, very easily. So first of all, let's change the bank of chords we've got here. At the moment it's C major because the pad on the left is the root, and these are all the chords that are in the C major. And this song we're making is in A minor, so let's change that. Let's go to this box here, Chord Pads preset, load Chord Pads preset, and there's a whole load of presets to choose from here. You've got pop chords, all the major scales, all the minor scales. You've got most often used chords. You've got triads. So you can choose any of these. And we want minor scale A. So I'll just click on that. And you'll see they've all changed at the bottom here. Just click off that window. So this is what we're going to do. A minor, F, although I'm going to change that to F major 7 in a second, C, and G. So the same chords as the guitar. If you're not sure about chord progressions, as in which chords to play in what sequence, you can come to Show Hide Chord Assistant, and you get this thing called the circle of fifths, and your root chord is in the middle. And you've got the 1 chord here, the 2 chord, 3 chord, 4. So let's just play those. Which is all the ones down here. But it's suggesting other chords for you as well outside of this. So all the green ones are major chords, all the ones in the inner circle are minor chords. And they all relate to each other, some a bit more than others. But it's just a very, very easy way to come up with some different chords that still work together. So play around with that if you wish. The other options we've got here is changing the tensions, which is this button down here. So, as the name suggests, it provides a different kind of tension when you play the chord slightly differently. And you can see the chords here coming up. And you can also change the voicing, so whether you play the notes at the bottom end of the keyboard or higher up, and perhaps the notes in a different order, called inversions. So every single one of those chords was an A minor, just played in different areas. Just going to put that back down. Okay, so we're back to normal. You can also change each individual chord using the left arrow that says Open Editor. You can make this chord whatever you want. So if you wanted it to be an F, sus2, you can do that there. So I'm just going to put that back to an A minor. And it's just this one we want to change. This F does sound nice, but in the guitar it's an F major 7. So we could consider changing this from an F to a major to a 7. It doesn't quite sound so nice on the keyboard, so I might actually leave that as an F, but you know how to change it if you wish. Okay guys, here's just a quick note for Cubase 13 users only. When it comes to chord pads, they are just slightly different now. All the background is the same, but the interface is slightly different. So to load a preset, which is probably a good place to start, you can go up here, just choose any of these presets and double click it. So Autumn Breeze, for example, is going to put all these presets on. You've got your chord editor over here. You can go to the individual editor by double clicking, which comes up there, but it's a little bit fiddly. Might want to just go here instead. You can change that from an E flat major 7 to an E flat minor 7, for example. So all your variations and tensions are here. You can change the root key and transpose all the pads there. You can delete your presets here, just for that one, or you can select all and delete them all if you want to start again. You can just assign, let's say, one pad, C major 7. You've also got your list here. So if you want some suggestions, for example, this one here, they've got some good chord progression suggestions. And your circle of fifths is down here now. So your root note's in the middle, G, also at the top. And you can, of course, drag these in, just like you could do in Cubase 12. And that's about it, guys. So what do we do now with these chords here? How do we get them into our project, you might be asking? We just drag and drop them in. It's really that simple. So let's just zoom in a little bit here. And we'll drag our first chord here. So drag and drop onto bar 3, which is where our song starts. And it's every 2 bars that our chord changes, so we'll extend this. Now we'll just get the bottom right hand corner of it, where you get the double arrow, extend that over to bar 5. Then we need to double click it and look at the MIDI notes. Let's just open up the window. These are the notes that Chord Pads has created for us. And again, you can change it further if you want to under chord editing, but I'm not going to do that right now. All we need to do is highlight them all and extend this, go to the right hand corner or right hand side and just extend this to bar 5. So now our chord goes for 2 bars rather than 1. Let's go back to Chord Pads and bring in our next chord, which is F. And I'm just going to quickly do the same. I'll do it a bit quicker this time, as you've seen it once already. Highlight them all. Bring it over to 7. Chord Pads. When you double click here, it opens up the editor in the bottom window, I'm sure you've noticed. Then we want C. And we want G. And we'll just extend both of these together this time. We'll highlight both. Then extend both MIDI segments at the same time. And we can even double click them both while they're both highlighted. Let's just make this bigger. Then we can highlight them all by Control A or Command A and just clicking on any of the notes, and it will extend both of them to the end. Okay, so let's just have a quick listen to that. Probably need to bring the volume down, and it all needs to be mixed and everything like that, but let's just have a listen. So at the moment the pads are overpowering the guitars, even though I've turned them right down. So we need to do some EQing. For example, maybe taking out a bit of the low mids or something like that of the pads. I don't want to confuse you too much, but that will make way for the guitars to come through. This is all stuff we're going to be doing later on. It's not just a matter of dumping in your audio and leaving it. If you've got a little bit of OCD like me and you want all these tracks the same height, then just come down the right side, click on this down arrow here and put zoom tracks to 2 rows. That gets them all the same height. So let's just go one step further. We've got our basic chords in, but let's make them a bit more interesting. Make that bigger as well, just by dragging the bottom of that so we can see it a bit clearer. If you'd rather just leave the chords basic like they are, that's absolutely fine. You can just continue to the next lesson, no problem at all. But for anyone that's interested in just taking it a little bit further, we can do that now and make these chords a little bit more interesting. So I now want to change my preferences so the window at the bottom doesn't open, it just opens in a new window. It's because it's just a little bit annoying. It's too small and it keeps changing from chord pads. So let's go to Edit Preferences, and under Editors, double click Opens Editor in Lower Zone. I'm just going to put this to Opens in a Window, and I'm going to click OK. So now when I double click any of these segments, it opens up in a separate window. That's much better. So we've got this chord, A minor. But let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's make this an A sus2. Let's highlight them all. And on the left, under chord editing, we can just change this to sus2. It sounds like this. So this is where it was. It was a C, the top note, but now it's a B. But let's change it from an A sus2 to an A minor halfway through. So what we can do is just grab the right hand side of that till we've got the arrow, pull it over. That shortens that note. And let's draw in a new note. Get the pen tool at the top and draw in a new note like that. Just going to turn that up a bit. In fact, let's just mute the guitar for a second and turn up the pad a little bit. Go back in, double click. Let's have a listen. So it goes do, do. Now that note there is just a little bit loud. You can see at the bottom, or you can even see the color that it's more red than this one. So I'm just going to right click, go back to my normal tool, and just reduce that back down to similar to where it was, or similar to these other ones, I should say. Okay, and let's do the same. Let's keep the F as it is. I've just realized we've got a note here. The bass note has not been extended. That's my mistake, so I'll just highlight that one only and extend it. So let's do the same here, make this C a bit more interesting. We'll do this one a different way. I'm just going to delete this C here, so make sure you've got C highlighted. Just going to press delete. Change this to a C major 7. So the C major 7 doesn't work for me, so I'm going to try a sus2 without the 7. A lot of these things is just trial and error. Let's drag C sus2 in. We're just trying to make these chords a little bit more interesting. Quite like that. If I extend that over, we're going to extend them. Let's just zoom out a little bit vertically. So come over the right hand side to make these a little bit thinner so we can get all 4 notes on the screen. Actually, let's just duplicate the bottom 3. Let's maybe just make this one start here. Let's have a listen. So it just sounds a little bit more interesting than the original chords we put in there, which were the basic ones. What we can do now is just glue all these parts together as well. So when we double click them, they all open up as a single unit rather than having to click each one. So we'll highlight them all. Get the glue tool at the top. That's the eraser tool. Is the glue tool next to scissors at the top, or you can press the number 4 and get the glue tool and just click it. And now they're all glued together. Go back to the normal tool. Now when we double click this, we've got all of the chords on the screen, and it's now easier to see what we're working with. Let's maybe just put in an extra C here. This third chord just sounds a little bit weaker, so I'm just going to show you another way to draw in a note. I'm just going to hold down Alt or Option rather than choosing my pen tool up here. Just hold down Alt or Option, and it automatically gives me the pen tool or draw tool. Just going to try an extra C there. Yeah, it's just a little bit loud, but I like that C, that extra C going in there. It just needs to come down a bit here. Let's play the whole thing. Okay, so it all needs a thoroughly good mix, but we are getting there. So that is how to use a virtual instrument and get any sound you wish, more or less. In this case, we used it to create a pad sound, and we used chord pads to help us create a nice chord structure. So let's continue building our track and getting all the different elements in. And next lesson, we're going to be recording a singer. All the best, guys. Bye-bye.